London, the year 1605. England was a kingdom divided by religion. For decades, Catholics and Protestants had lived in tension and suspicion. Punishments were harsh. Trust was rare, and beneath the quiet streets of London, a dangerous conspiracy was slowly taking shape. A plan so shocking, it could have destroyed the entire English government in a single moment. In 1603, a new king took the English throne. James I. Many Catholics believed this new ruler might bring tolerance and religious freedom. But those hopes quickly faded. Instead of easing restrictions, the government continued to punish Catholics. Fines, arrests, and discrimination became part of everyday life, and among some desperate men, anger began to grow. One man decided that peaceful change was impossible. His name was Robert Catesby, a wealthy Catholic gentleman with a dangerous idea. If the government would not change, then perhaps it should be destroyed entirely. Catesby began gathering trusted allies who shared his anger and desperation. Soon, several men joined the conspiracy. Among them were Thomas Wintour, Thomas Perciand eventually, a man who would become the most famous of them all, Guy Fawkes. Guy Fawkes was a soldier experienced with explosives, and he would soon be trusted with the most dangerous job of all. The conspirators formed a terrifying plan. They would destroy the entire English government in a single explosion. Their target was the Palace of Westminster. On the day Parliament opened, the king, nobles, bishops, and politicians would all be present. If the building exploded, England's entire leadership would vanish in seconds. The conspirators rented a cella directly beneath the House of Lords. Under cover of darkness, they began moving barrels of gunpowder inside, one by one, two by two, until there were 36 barrels hidden underground, enough explosives to destroy the entire building. And guarding those barrels would be Guy Fawkes. The plan was simple. On the morning of November 5th, 1605, Parliament would gather, the king would arrive. The building would fill with England's most powerful leaders. And in the cellar below, Guy Fawkes would light the fuse. Seconds later, London would witness the most devastating explosion in English history. But just days before the attack, something unexpected happened. A mysterious letter was delivered to a member of Parliament. The letter warned him to stay away from the building. It hinted that Parliament would face a terrible danger. The message quickly reached the king. And suddenly, the authorities became suspicious. On the night of November 4th, royal guards began searching the building. They entered the dark cellar beneath Parliament. At first, everything seemed ordinary, but then they discovered something alarming. Barrels stacked carefully beneath the floor. And standing nearby was a man holding The man was Guy Fawkes. He was immediately arrested. When the barrels were opened, the truth became clear. Gunpowder. Enough to destroy Parliament and everyone inside. The Gunpowder Plot had been uncovered just hours before the attack. England had narrowly escaped disaster. News of the plot spread rapidly. The remaining conspirators fled London, hoping to escape, but the government launched a massive manhunt. One by one, the rebels were captured or killed. Even the mastermind Robert Catesby was eventually hunted down and killed by royal soldiers. Guy Fawkes and the surviving conspirators were put on trial. They were charged with treason against the crown. The punishment was brutal. In January 1606, the conspirators were publicly executed. Their plot had failed, but the story would never be forgotten. To celebrate the king's survival, people across England lit bonfires. Fireworks filled the night sky, and every year on November 5th, the nation remembered the failed plot. The tradition became known as Guy Fawkes Night. Even today, centuries later, the night is celebrated across Britain. The Gunpowder Plot became one of the most famous conspiracies in British history. It deepened mistrust between Catholics and the government, and it created a legend that would survive for generations. A story of rebellion, betrayal, and a narrow escape from disaster.